Hey guys, welcome back to Sparkman Homestead. My name is Krista. I have yet another fun project that I want to get done. So yesterday I spent a day working outside of the house. Normally with my job I work in the home, but it actually required me to leave the house yesterday. And I wasn't even close that I could just come back for lunch. And I was stuck in a warehouse all day. I had no way of really heating up a meal or anything. So I realized yesterday in that situation that I really need to get some better snacks prep. I did a little bit of research and I found a recipe for a cereal bar. You know those Nutri-Grain cereal bars? They're not the best because they're full of sugar and just junk. So we're going to try to create kind of a healthier version of it. Now on the recipe, she actually gives directions to make your own filling with some fresh or frozen fruit, but we have all this jam that has to get used. Now we definitely go through our jam, so this is not, I know it looks like an excessive amount, but I have double rows of stuff in here. So we're gonna get some of this jam used so that I can kind of clear these off. Next year, I'm not gonna make as much jam. I say that now, but then what happens is we get into berry season and I'm just like, let me make all the jam. And then we have so much of it. So I'm thinking what I wanna do. I have a little bit of blackberry jam left in my fridge. I'm just looking for the jam that I have the most amount of, which is this failed peach jelly, but I don't think I'm going to use that. This actually did not turn out the best. It did solidify, but I did not end up putting enough sugar in this. I used a Pomona's and I really went light with the sugar, and I don't know if you can see it. It set up, but it didn't set up. It's just focusing on me. It set up, but it didn't set up the best. It's still really, really runny. So this is really good to use like to make a sauce with, or to use like in a bread. If I'm going to make like a fruit bread, this stuff would be perfect. But it's not going to be sweet enough to do our task today. Oh, that sun is beautiful, but it's really, really bright. I'm loving it. I'm loving the fact that the sun is actually out today. It's freezing cold, but it's actually out. So I'm not going to complain about it. The recipe states that it is a very bland tasting bread, like dough. So you really need to make sure that your filling that you're putting it in has enough sweetness. So what are we going to use? I am thinking that I would like to use some raspberry jam, because that's a yummy topping. Actually, let's do a strawberry raspberry, because this is a really, really good jam. And these jams are low sugar. Again, I used Pomona's to make it, but the fruit in it is really, really sweet. Whereas this failed jelly, I didn't put enough sugar in it, and also it didn't have enough fruit in it to really make it sweet. So that's why it's kind of not a super, it tastes like a watered down jelly. It's not the best, but of course it's the one that we have the most of. Okay, so we're gonna do that, and then we won't use cranberry. What is this one? What is this one? Oh, this is a peach jam. That would be yummy too. Okay, so we're gonna use raspberry, strawberry, peach jam. Let me get out of that sun. So if we have extra dough, then we'll use the blackberry jam in the fridge. I've just been using that blackberry jam to put on top of like my pancakes and waffles in the morning. I love having jam on top of them. It's a good syrup alternative. Okay, so we got those out. Now I got a grain mill. I was really hoping to be able to be using it by now, but honestly, I have not had a minute to experiment with that, and let alone like run the first batch through it, because apparently you have to run a batch through it just to kind of clean it out, and I've not had time to do any of that. So we're just going to use our all-purpose flour. That's fine. We got enough of it. Anyways, let's get started on making these cereal bars. They call for a ground flaxseed. I don't have any ground. I don't like to grind oh, never mind. This is ground. Okay, I do have ground. I was just gonna say this is ground, but I do have some in there that is not ground. Flaxseed is exactly like a regular grain, only it's a seed, and it starts to lose its nutritional value as soon as you grind it. That is something that you really should store in the freezer if you're going to keep it fresh for longer. Like I purchased, this is already pre-ground stuff. Don't mind my nails. I need to get my nails done. This is already pre-ground stuff, but I would highly recommend if you have like a coffee grinder or like a food processor or a high-powered blender, buy the flax seeds whole. It is way, way more nutritious if you buy them in their whole state versus having them pre-ground. It's kind of like flour. And we need to get some honey. This recipe is actually almost sugar-free. That's why it does suggest to use a sweet filling in it, because this dough really just has a little tiny bit of honey in it as a sweetener. It really does rely on you to have that sweet filling in it. And I'm gonna leave the recipe linked for you guys. So if you want to attempt to make your own filling with this, the directions is in there. She gives you a guide on how to do this. If you want to have a gluten-free option, she does have a recipe just below this one that you would use a oat with it. And so that would make it gluten-free, but we're gonna do just this regular one. Need to get some coconut oil, and then we need to get some baking powder and vanilla extract. Look, I know I showed you on my last week's video how low I am, but I am really, really, really low on this. That particular vanilla that I made, I actually made with bourbon, and it is so amazing. But I do have a couple in here that I'm making. This is just like a vodka vanilla. I just store it in here, and it just sits and infuses. So this one I can start using because it's pretty good. This one I think has been infusing for about 6 months. So it's good to use. And then I think this one I just started a couple months ago. So definitely has a longer time to go on it. But you can see all those little vanillas floating around. It is so easy to make your own vanilla extract. All you have to do is take vanilla beans. These are vanilla beans that I bought on Amazon. I have bought these from the same seller, I think, for a couple years now, and these are actually really good vanilla beans. So I just get them in little packs like this. I'll leave them linked below in my Amazon store if you guys want to get them. There are definitely some really good resources actually on Facebook. You can join some of these vanilla bean groups and you can get vanilla beans for a way, way better deal. I haven't experimented with that yet, but I know a lot of people say that those Facebook groups are really good for it. Anyways, you just take your vanilla, you slice it down the middle, and then you just put it in vodka and you let it sit for, I would say, at least 6 months just to get really infused. The more vanilla beans you use in it, the stronger it will be. This amount of vanilla beans, which is, there's 26 beans in here, this would be good to make like this size container. So 26 beans would make like this size of extract. This bourbon one that I'm almost ran out of, I'm actually gonna make some more of it because I actually prefer the bourbon one over the vodka one. It just has like a, I don't know, I just think it tastes a little bit better. So I'm gonna actually go and pick up some more bourbon maybe in the next couple of days. Actually, I'm not gonna pick it up. That is not on my list of things that I'm getting. So I will wait until March. I'll get some bourbon and then I'll remake this. I can't use it right away anyway, so. Alrighty, what do we need to do first? The recipe says to make that blueberry filling first, but we're not gonna do that. So we're gonna just go to the next step here. So the next step is we gotta get our oven preheated to 350 degrees. Then we need to get a baking sheet out. I'm gonna get 2 out because I don't know how many we're gonna actually make with this. And then it says to line the cookie sheet with parchment paper. We're just gonna use our silicone liners. So got that out. Next, we need to get our food processor out. It does mention that you can also use a blender for this. Supper aside, I'm gonna make some tacos tonight, and we have a little bit of venison left over from a deer that was, I think, given to us last year. I think we got it last year. So we're gonna have venison tacos tonight for supper. Okay, and then we also need a medium-sized bowl. I am wearing like a cream-colored shirt, which is just means it's gonna be a target for stains. So we will get our apron on. All right, let's get our mixer on here. I always put this on the wrong way and then actually think, nope, it's on the right way. I always put it on the wrong way, and then when I have to readjust it, this thing pops up and it just makes a mess. So I've learned to double check it. So to this food processor, we are gonna add 1 1/3 cup of flour. And let me just get a knife. I got a comment on one of my videos and I appreciate it. She said, when you actually shake your flour, that makes it more unlevel. She says the best to do is use the knife and level it. So that is what we're gonna do. I always thought it was the opposite. So that's why I love the comments. And I definitely read all your guys' comments because I learn stuff from them, which is amazing. So we're gonna add 1 1/3 cup of a all-purpose flour in this. It does also mention that you can use a gluten-free flour mixture. 1/3 cup of a ground flaxseed. I'm having a hard time not shaking it because I'm so used to doing that. I'm wondering if we should double it. Let's see how much dough we get out of this and then maybe decide if we should double it or not. Before we do that, let's just check and see if she mentions how many it actually makes. It makes approximately 9 bars and you can freeze these. So let's double it, and then that way we can put some in the pantry to have now, and then we'll plop some in the freezer that we can have for later. And then we need 1 teaspoon of baking powder. All right, let's get our lid on. And then it just says to pulse it for a couple pulses. Okay, that looks good. Everything looks good and mixed in there. So now we're gonna take our medium-sized bowl and we're gonna get the rest of our ingredients in here. I actually just need to come over here, and because the recipe calls for an egg, again, we're doubling it, I just have to grab 2 of my eggs and then just get them rinsed off. The recipe says that you can use a coconut oil or a butter in this. I'm just gonna use coconut oil because I'm trying to kind of conserve my butter. I've been using a lot of butter lately in recipes and I don't wanna run out of it. It's gotta last me for 2 months. So I am just gonna use some coconut oil because we have a couple of containers of this. So we'll just use that. And then it calls for 2 tablespoons of melted coconut oil. So I'm just gonna add it into this little ramekin. We're gonna put it in the microwave. If you don't have a microwave, definitely just put it in a saucepan and melt it that way. Probably a little better to do it that way, but we're just gonna use the microwave today. One thing I like to do whenever I'm using coconut oil is if there's any left in the spoon, I literally take it and put it on my hands because it is such a good moisturizer for your hands. I love when I'm cooking and I can use the food that I'm cooking with on my body as well. My hands are so split because we have been having a really bad cold spell lately, and literally it has split my fingers in half and it is so sore. So I have been trying to like rub a lotion on them before I go to bed at night, but it is getting really, really bad. Okay, that's melted. We'll just set that aside for a minute. Let that cool down for a minute because we also have to add eggs to this and I don't want to scramble the eggs. Okay, so to this medium-sized bowl, we are gonna add 2 tablespoons of honey. So we're gonna do 4. Just gonna wipe this, wash my tablespoon off because I don't want to cross-contaminate my honey. Use 4. For Thanksgiving, we went to Arkansas to visit Steven's family. We usually go there for Thanksgiving. And one thing we love to do on Black Friday is we love to go to the antique malls and the antique stores there. And we went to this like flea market antique store and they had a whole bunch of pottery. I bought this honey bowl for myself and it is amazing. So it came with a little stick in it and it's just all handmade. And then it has a beautiful, beautiful top on it. Love this. And you know what? I think this was only $10. $10. And it's, you cannot find homemade pottery like that cheap. So they had a whole bunch of other stuff and I was so tempted to get it, but you know, trying to issue self-control with not buying everything. So I just bought myself that honey thing and I love it. I love using honey, but it makes a mess. I like to always make sure that I clean up after I use it because otherwise I leave a sticky mess behind me. The other reason I do this is because I store this on my counter and I don't want fruit flies if I have this sticky sweet stuff sitting on my counter. Flea markets and antique malls, I know that a lot of people think that they're really expensive, but I have honestly found some of my best kitchen stuff in antique malls. Sometimes you just get very, very lucky, and some vendors just have stuff at a very, very reasonable price. And that just happens to have been one of them. Alrighty, and then we need 1 tablespoon or 2 tablespoons, not tablespoons, teaspoons of vanilla. So we're just gonna eyeball it. I hate measuring vanilla. I just really just add it with my heart. And like I showed you on last week's video, look at the vanilla speckles. So awesome. Those are little flavor beads in there. Alrighty, we will add our coconut oil into here. Just kind of stir that around. Just trying to cool that coconut oil down a little bit because we're going to add our eggs in next, and I really don't want to cook my eggs. So if I mix it with the honey, it'll cool it down a little bit. Okay, so next we're going to add our eggs. Recipe says 1, so we're going to put in 2. Okay, and now we're just going to whisk this all together. It says to pulse while you stir the mixture in, but I don't want to spill it. So we're just going to just turn it on and then slowly add this mixture in. I need to get a spatula. All right, so as you can see, we don't really have a dough in here. So what it says to do is add a tablespoon of milk at a time until the dough starts to come together and form. So we're just gonna use some whole milk. You can definitely use a plant-based milk if you are dairy-free. So again, we'll turn this on and then add a tablespoon at a time. That should be good. Yeah, see how it's coming together now? That might have been too much milk. Okay, I'm just gonna put it down and then just turn it on really quick again, just because there's some milk here and some dry spots. That's good. Now it says to put the dough onto some wax paper to roll it out. So we're just gonna use some parchment paper. I could probably just do it on my countertop, but I just kind of want to follow it because with my luck, it's gonna end up sticking to the countertop. Might make it easier to do it on this, so we'll see. I'm pretty sure we added too much milk. The recipe says to have the mixture not wet, and I think we might have a wet dough. Hopefully not. We'll see. It smells really good though. We're gonna get it out of here. You see how it didn't quite mix all of the flour in there? We got some sticking to the bottom here, so just gonna use a spatula and we're gonna lift that up. I'm just gonna actually knead this with my hands really quickly to try to get that flour in. Okay, so it says to roll it into a rectangle. Oh, you know what we should do? We should probably half this because we doubled this batch. Okay, we'll just half this and do this one after. Let's roll it into a rectangle now. I don't know how thick it has to be. Let's see here. She just says a 10 by 12 rectangle, and you can cut and paste pieces to make it into a rectangle. Do we get a ruler out and make sure that we're being like 10 by 12? Let's get a ruler out. We might as well. Let's get particular. Okay, that's centimeters. There we go, inches. So that's 12 right here. Let's get a knife. We will do the cut and paste like she suggests. And then, what does it say? 10. 10. Oh, we really got to add more. That is 10 there, so we definitely have a long way to go. The only reason I'm being picky about making sure we're in the 10 by 12 is because that's going to give me an idea for the thickness of the dough that you need to have. I'm worried that I'm going to make the dough too thick and then these are going to turn out raw. So I'm just wanting to roll them pretty thin because she doesn't mention in the recipe the thickness of the dough. I would imagine it's probably going to be like a 1/4 inch if I had to guess. Okay, let's double check. We're a little bit wider than 12 and now we're definitely longer than 10. So we've probably gone too thin. That is not a straight line either. Definitely doing the cut and paste like she suggested. That's good enough, right? And now we have to cut the dough lengthwise into thirds. That should hopefully be even. That bottom one doesn't look as thick as the others, but that's okay. Okay, so if you're making the blueberry filling, now is the time you're gonna add it. We're just gonna use strawberry jam for the first batch. So we'll open our jam up, give it a little stir. So it says use about a 1/4 cup of your mixture, your filling, per stripe or per piece. So you don't wanna overfill it, which if you've seen last week's video, definitely did. And you want to leave a 1/4 inch on each side and bring it right to the edges. That's probably way too much. Probably way too much. As I keep adding it and saying that. Now the fun part that I seem to always screw up. Carefully fold one length of the dough over the filling to the other, gently pinching. It also says to put some water, so I have some water here, and we're just going to put the water along the edges because it's supposed to help it seal. Carefully fold it over, and then it says pinch to seal. Yeah, definitely have too much jam over here. But that's actually the only casualty we have on that whole thing, so that's good. Okay, let's do it with all of them. Oop, that one ripped. This one definitely has too much jam. It's coming out everywhere. Oh, I didn't use the water to seal any of this. Whoops, is it gonna seal? Yeah, it looks like it's sealing. And it says to sprinkle a little bit of sugar on it. It recommends using that like rough grainy sugar. I'll leave the exact name of the sugar it recommends to use. We'll just use some organic cane sugar on this. You don't have to do this. Recipe says it's an option. I'm not putting very much. I'm literally probably putting maybe a teaspoon on one of these whole rows. Maybe not even a teaspoon, maybe half a teaspoon. Okay, so it says to transfer these to a baking sheet. Sticking a little bit there. So it says to cut each one of these into 3 different pieces. So let's measure it here. I eyeball it. I'm not being super picky. And then it says to separate them by at least 1 inch. My cookie sheet might not be big enough to separate to 1 inch. Some of these bars might be bigger than the other ones. This one I'm just gonna I got some stuff, extra stuff over here, so I'm just gonna cut that away. This end one's a little leaky. Slightly concerned with the end one. So it says to bake them for 15 minutes. We're probably gonna go 20 minutes because again, my oven's off, but we will give them a check at 15. So for the next ones, we're gonna use the peach jam. And I'm not gonna use a parchment paper down here because it was not necessary. I can easily get those off of the countertop without a big mess. So as I'm rolling this dough out, I realized I probably used a little bit more dough in the other one. So those might be a little too thick, but that's okay. We will not have as many peach ones as we do the strawberry ones, and that's fine. Probably only get 2 rows. So as I'm getting the peach ones all done and we're waiting for the strawberry ones to cook, I'm gonna include a clip in here showing you guys what we made for supper last night. I have been videoing them all just so that I can give you guys an idea of like what we're actually cooking from our pantry every single night. So I'm gonna include that clip in here and we'll be back once the strawberries are done and we can put the peach ones in the oven. All right, for tonight's supper, we are going to use some leftover turkey that we have in the fridge, and I have some rice on my stovetop that is already done cooking. I cooked it earlier today. I was inspired by watching a couple videos. Somebody actually made a chicken and rice casserole, and I thought that sounds delicious, and I have leftover turkey in the fridge that I need to get used. So I thought I would make that recipe. Now, I went online to see if I could find a recipe for it, and definitely they're really easy to make. It's just a couple of things that you just put together. Most of the recipes called for a cream of soup, so like a cream of mushroom, cream of celery, cream of chicken soup. I don't buy that because it is so easy to make your own. So I'm going to show you guys how I make my cream of soup. Now I'm going to be doubling this recipe because the recipe that I found actually calls for a cream of celery and a cream of chicken, I believe. Now, my recipe that I have to make this calls for chicken broth, but I have a beef broth in my fridge that I need to get used. So we're going to use this instead of chicken broth. So it's going to be like a cream of beef. I don't know how well that's going to taste with the turkey, but Pantry challenge, we're just going to throw it all together and see how it turns out. So I'm going to show you guys how to make the cream of whatever soup. Now you can make modifications to this soup. You can do it again with chicken broth, so that would make it a cream of chicken soup. You can add celery to this, which would make it a cream of celery. Or you can even add some sauteed mushrooms or canned mushrooms to this, and it would be a cream of mushroom soup. And again, it's a concentrated soup. So this is not going to be like a soup that you're going to serve. This is going to be a replacement for those Campbell whatever brand name you buy. It's just going to be a replacement for those concentrated versions. All right, to get started, we have a medium size pot here, and I am going to add about a 1/4 cup of butter to this. You want to use about 3 to 4 tablespoons if you're just doing one recipe. Yeah, 3 to 4. Actually, no, sorry, I lied. You want to use 3 tablespoons of butter, not 3 to 4. 3 tablespoons for one recipe. Okay, that butter is all melted now. We are going to add 6 tablespoons of flour. Again, because we are doubling this, just add 3 in right now and just quickly stir this. You want to kind of add the flour and stir as you're adding it in. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I don't have my mic on. So what you want to do is you want to stir this flour until it starts to smell nutty. You're pretty much just cooking the raw flour taste off of it. So once it starts to smell really nutty, we're going to add our beef broth, and then we're also going to add some milk. So again, we're doubling the recipe. So I'm going to be adding 1 cup of broth to this and 1 cup of milk. You can add any type of broth you like to this, whatever type of flavor you're going for. And you can definitely add any type of milk as well. So this is now starting to smell burnt and not nutty, so we're going to add that broth in right now. And I'm just slowly adding it in so that we can get rid of all of the lumps. Got a little burn on the bottom, but that's okay. Just too busy talking to you guys. Okay, and now we're going to add in our cup of milk. And you can use cream in this if you would like. I'm using a whole milk. I added a touch bit more liquid than what the recipe calls for because every time I make this recipe, without fail, it turns out way too thick. So I just know ahead of time with that 3 tablespoons of flour, just add a touch bit more liquid to this. So I just added a little bit more broth. I had like maybe a cup and a tablespoon, like not very much. So now we just stir until this thickens. And then once it thickens, it's done. You have your soup mixture. It's already starting to thicken up and I don't even have it to boil. It doesn't take long. Also to add, you don't need to use flour in this. You can use a arrowroot powder or you can use cornstarch. You can use a gluten-free flour mix in this also, so you don't need to just use the all-purpose stuff. Broth is unsalted, so I'm gonna add a hefty amount of salt in there. So if you don't add that extra amount of liquid, this will be super, super thick. So this is the consistency that we're at. And again, I added that extra liquid because I purposely wanted it to be a little bit more runnier. All right, and that's it. That is done. That's how quick and easy it is to make your own cream of soup mixture. We're gonna add broccoli to this. I noticed yesterday I had a bag of broccoli in here I had completely forgot about. So we're just gonna get this steamed. I'm using my Tupperware steamer basket. I really wish I had a steamer basket for one of my saucepans, but I don't, so I have to resort to microwaving in plastic, which is so many things wrong with that, but we could get into that. While that is steaming, I'm just gonna put some butter in the bottom of this pan here. What size is this? This is a 9x13 pan. It might be a touch bit smaller. You can use cooking spray to do this, or you could use tallow or lard, whatever you have available. I just had butter in front of me, so that's what I'm using. We have our leftover turkey. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of take it off the bone. This is just a drumstick. And then I'm just gonna put it in this bowl. This would work really good if you also had like leftover rotisserie chicken. If you don't, then you can just take like a chicken breast and just cook the chicken breast and then just dice it up and put it into here. Okay, so we have all of our turkey put in here. This is also a really, really good meal if you have just a little bit of stuff. Rice makes everything stretch so much further. So this is a really good budget friendly meal, as well as it's good to use leftovers. Because again, you can use whatever meat you have. Okay, so we're gonna take our broccoli that we just steamed and we're gonna add it in here. And we're gonna add our rice. This is 1 cup of uncooked rice, and this is the amount that that would make. So we're gonna add all of that in here. Give this a stir. And then we're gonna add our cream soup that we just made. So that would be equivalent of 2 cream of soups. Just stir everything until it's mixed together. Also to add, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, that turkey is fully cooked. So everything in here is completely cooked components. I'm gonna taste this just to see if I need to add any more salt. Yes, I do. Also add a little bit of pepper. Ready, so we have our buttered dish. I'm just gonna empty this all into here. And then I'm gonna top this with some shredded cheese. I'm just using like a cheese mix here. It's like a marble mix. It's just a mix of a couple different cheeses. I'm not using a recipe, really. I will find one and leave it linked for you guys though, the one that kind of inspired this. But as I normally do, I've gone completely away from it. We're gonna get this in the oven. Have my oven preheated to 400 degrees. I'm gonna set my timer for 30 minutes. We'll come and check it at 30 minutes. I'm pretty sure it'll be done after the 30 minutes because again, everything is already cooked in it. We're just kind of we're cooking it all together now. Get the flavors mixed. Timer went off and I can smell it. So let's get this out. Oh yeah, it's done. Ooh, yummy. That's what she looks like. So that is supper for tonight. Okay, so I can smell those and they still have 1 minute left, but I think they're gonna need to cook a little bit longer, but I definitely overfilled them and I don't know if jam was the best idea. I'll show you what they look like right now. Oh, it's gonna steam up. Wipe you guys off there. There we go. It's all overflowing, but you see how they're not, I'll show you. I gotta take them out anyways. You see how they're not quite brown on the top? We want them to be brown, so we're gonna put them in for a little bit longer. They're definitely cooked on the bottom, but I just want them to be, maybe some of them are cooked actually. You know what? I think they are done. That one feels a little not done. We'll go another 5 minutes. Just keep an eye. But look at this one. I didn't seal the patch together, and that's the one that leaked everywhere. Oh, that's messy. Definitely recommend using a lined cookie sheet in that, and definitely a rimmed cookie sheet too. So like a cookie sheet that has a rim on it, so that when you do get that overflow, it does not overflow into your oven. These are the peach ones. Probably gonna have a little bit of a mess with these too. So we'll just wait the 5 minutes. It smells so good though. I'm excited about them. When I said before that I was looking for like a meal to take, I just meant like a heartier snack, because honestly right now, what I took yesterday was beef sticks. And I ran out of beef sticks. Oh, and a fruit leather. So that was not really sustainable. Like I didn't really get full off of that. I'm thinking with these, because they're a bit more heavier, I might feel a little bit more full after eating them. So that's just what I meant by like an on-the-go meal. Our timer just went off. Let's check these. Yeah, I think they're done. I don't want to cook them much more because I don't want them to be super, super dry. So we'll leave them cool, and we will get these ones in, and we'll set the timer for 25 minutes. Alrighty, wait for these to come out. I don't want to test these right now because it has piping hot jam in them, and that'll probably burn my mouth. So we're gonna let these cool for the 25 minutes that the peach ones are in there, and then we'll come back and we'll test them. But I'm really excited because these really do smell amazing, and they really do actually look like the cereal bars. Like I've never made a recipe and have it look like the photo. Do. So I'm already counting that as a win. If it looks even close to the photo, that's a win. Now, how much jam is actually left in here? Who knows? We'll find out in 25 minutes. These peach ones got 4 more minutes, but I can really smell them. Let's give them a check. Because they're thinner. Yeah, they're done. I'm glad I checked them. So we'll take those out, turn the oven off. I like to leave my oven open after I'm done cooking because it's heat I've already paid for, and it heats the house. I am that cheap, yes. Okay, let's try these. I'm so hungry and I'm so excited to try these. This jam that is on here, it's probably gonna be like fruit leather. Yeah, it is. It's good. All right, we'll try the one that kind of exploded. We'll see. There's still a pretty good amount of filling in it. Like I said, these actually look like the ones you get in the store. Well, not exactly like it, but they're very, very, very close. They're good. They are good. Definitely could use some more sugar sprinkled on the top if you want to have them super sweet. Because the jam I'm using isn't overly sweet, these are nice. They're not like, you know, when you eat the ones, I don't know if you've ever had the ones from the store, but you know when you eat them, you're literally eating like a chocolate bar or candy bar because there's so much sugar in them. It's hard for my brain to think of these as those because I'm thinking they should be way sweeter, but I just have to reprogram my brain that I don't need that much sugar. It is not good for me. But these are definitely really, really delicious. And I cannot wait to start milling my own flour and then make these with some whole grains. They'll be even better for me. But this is definitely a win recipe. I really like this. She also said that you can put like peanut butter and chocolate chips in them as well. Like you don't just have to do a fruit spread. Peanut butter and chocolate chips would be really yummy. Love this recipe. So that's going to be it for today. I want to thank you guys again for coming along and keeping me company while we experimented doing a recipe that actually worked. Like it actually worked. It actually looked somewhat like the photo and it tastes delicious. Win-win. Recipe is linked for you guys below in the video description. But thank you guys so much for coming along, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys have a great day or night whenever you're watching this, and I will see you on the next video. Bye guys.